What's going on, guys? Sam here. We are on episode number 3 of the new podcast. We are going to be bringing on many guests like my buddy Ryan here, who is a cinematographer, super talented guy in the East Bay. Me and Ryan have worked together on multiple projects. Very talented wedding filmmaker. He's in commercial production, working on documentaries. Was just out in Borneo shooting a fly fishing film, which he will definitely talk about later in this episode. But Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure. Well, Sam, thanks for having me on. As you mentioned just now, 2024 is off to a pretty crazy start. I'm finally back home after spending about a month in the jungle on some really remote areas of Borneo shooting a documentary. I am a Bay Area creative. And I'm mainly in the owner-operator world, for commercial productions, and then obviously weddings as well, which we've teamed up a couple of times with too. And that's kind of my balance right now between those 3 worlds, between documentaries, commercials, and weddings.
Yeah, Ryan's very humble. He's very, very talented. He also helped me on my latest short film, Knockout. He was helping with all the lighting, absolute lighting genius over here. He's got an insane setup and very knowledgeable individual as well regarding shooting, how to run a business. So we'll be getting into a few different topics today, but I appreciate you coming on, Ryan, to this brand new podcast that I'm kind of hosting and releasing. So cool. We want to talk a little bit about you, Ryan. This is about you today. We want to get into your career and kind of how you got into video production in the first place, right? It's not like your everyday job. It's a very different type of line of work. So how did you get into this career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like for everyone out there, it's an odyssey of some sort. And for me, I can certainly say the same. It started for me probably way back in high school. I had a couple friends back then who, we liked making short films together. So I got to start doing that. And really the first project we all did together was for our senior year. They do like a slideshow presentation. We wanted to one-up that and do like a video of our senior year. So we put in all this work documenting our senior year, and then showed that at our final school assembly. So that was the first project I ever had my name on. And
I'm sure you've looked at that. I'm sure you look back at that project now as well.
Oh, it exists somewhere. I need to more recently. I'm sure that would be something to look back on that, and we would just laugh at it.
Yeah.
But during that era was the explosion of the 5D Mark III, and as you know, it's gone light years in the world since then. So that's kind of the filmmaking world when I first started. And that carried over to college. I kind of took a break from it for a couple years. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in school. And I picked journalism school just because I know, if you're going to learn anything, learning to tell a great story is really important. And it's something that transcends writing, filmmaking. I didn't quite know what path I wanted to go down quite then at that point. But just through happenstance, I managed to get a job underneath the school videographer at the University of Nevada. And then so he taught me the ropes of how to actually operate a camera, how to edit, all that kind of stuff. And we would shoot all the community events on campus, as well as the football games, basketball games. And that's really where I built the foundation for all my skills. And then from there, I got my first job at a production company in Reno, who primarily had government clients. So I went immediately to the most boring realm of video production, and that is filming city council meetings.
Hey man, we got to start somewhere, right?
You got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely it.
So we would do that, and then also do little PSA campaigns for all the city council members and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And then from there, it's just trying to get more and more fun shoots and more and more fun clients from there. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I know you moved out here, what was it, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, going on 3.
Going on 3.
I know, yeah.
Pretty
It goes by so fast.
Ryan's a married man. He's a married man.
Yeah.
He's living out in Livermore. So, yeah, no. Love to hear the story, man. Love to hear the story. I love to hear everyone's backstory about how they got into this industry, because there's so many different avenues people have kind of, I think, fallen into video production and running their own business, because like we said, it's not your regular 9 to 5. It's something super different, and everyone has learned different ways. I got into it from traveling, you got into it from school, from learning from, sounds like this videographer position at your university. So I think it's all interesting. A lot of guys get into it from like skateboarding and like other random like little things like that, right? It's like it's such like not your traditional path. So I think it's very interesting. But yeah, so we talk about how you get into the job, right? How did you kind of get into your niches that you obviously specialize in, which is, weddings and commercial production?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think, as you mentioned, like we all come from different sources of inspiration for wanting to become a filmmaker. And for me, really only recently am I finding a way to dabble into the things that actually have inspired me to make films. All my years prior to this is learning how to make money from it, And honestly, it's through that world and of just trying to get by to where I broke into the wedding scene and also in the commercial market as well. And obviously, that's may have been the impetus for it all, but now I've grown to love those industries as well and all the art that goes into that as well. But honestly, so obviously I mentioned like the high school friends who I was with who kind of, I had fun making films with. That in addition to, I'm a huge skier myself, and a big outdoorsman. And so that wanting to show that slice of the world has always been motivation for me to pick up a camera. So it's always been a fight to actually be in a position in my life to where I can share that.
100%.
Love for that.
100%. Yeah, and I think a lot of us got into weddings because it's the means to fund our passion, right?
Right. It's
I think we both love to shoot weddings,
yeah.
right? We do. It's like a great time, and we also can build a business around it. That's how I've kind of built my business around is weddings and real estate and commercial production, right? So totally understand that, and it's a good industry to be in for sure, especially here in the Bay Area, right? So yeah. So real quick, I know that you shoot weddings. You shoot weddings for yourself. You have shot weddings for me as well in the past on my team.
Sure.
Talk about a little bit about like a wedding horror story that you've had in the past. I know you kind of mentioned something about CRM software.
Yeah. So when I was first starting out, I did all my business was essentially existed in my email chain, right?
Yeah.
I had no
Sketch.
program to help me organize clients and shooting dates and invoices and all that fun stuff. And I'm sure I'm not the only one to have done this, but my first year starting off, I double booked myself. And that's the scariest thing you can possibly do, right? Because you upset everyone in the process, and there's deposits have been made, and it feels like your world's ending when you discover it, because it's always out of the blue, right? And you look like an idiot, right? It's the most unprofessional thing to happen to you. And, luckily, I was able to figure it out. I found someone to cover the wedding for me. And I think at the end of the day, clients were happy and everything. But from that moment onward, I knew I needed to have some structure to what I was doing. And I think through your recommendation, I started using HoneyBook. And my Lord, life has been so much nicer after that. Yeah. Almost died from that panic attack.
Yeah, no, I bet, man. I bet. Yeah, and I'm glad that I was able to recommend it to you as well, because I've been using HoneyBook for, 3+ years now. And
wow.
Yeah, that software has saved my butt a lot of times. You've got like contracts in there, you got scheduling, and this is not an ad for HoneyBook. I just love using them. Their software is really, really intuitive for content creators, just in general. So they have so many good templates, and you can send invoices in there, and you have your whole funnel system where you can kind of take your leads and turn them into, action items, and you can send proposals to, and then you can get paid all in one software, which is super, super helpful, right? And like you have links that you can include and embed into your website to, contact forms and all that, right? So they even have like scheduling now as well, which is sweet. So there's a lot of really good features in there.
Yeah, but I'm like the poster child of like the stereotype of like a creative person who's like really focused and perhaps good, maybe not at like the actual creation of something.
Yeah.
But then like the whole business side of it, I was a total disaster from the beginning. So it's been a backwards journey of learning to build the business from what was first just a creative endeavor.
Well, and that's not just you, man. I think that's the entire creative industry, or most of like creatives in general are really good at their trade and their craft, but just don't really understand as much how to run a business correctly, which I think is also what we kind of want to do these kind of sessions, because I think there's a lot of value to be shared in that kind of world for creatives in general. So if you're running a wedding business, if you're running a real estate business, if you're running an associate team, there's so many good nuggets to share based off of CRM software. I think you can also talk about like taxes, for instance. That's another big one that many creatives don't understand is
right.
How to file taxes properly. I know most creatives don't even have businesses. Like they're not even like incorporated or anything.
If you're gonna do anything, maybe start there.
No,
kind of necessary. Yeah.
And it's really easy. It's really simple. I just walked a friend through it literally like last week, and just it's super simple. You literally type how to start a business in California. And there's like a 3-step thing. You file like a $14 application. And then
I think it's scary when you first start off because you don't know, are you a real business or are you not? And you find out that it doesn't mean anything. It's just paperwork, and you just have to do it. Well,
it's also like a bit of imposter syndrome as well. I think you go through the doubts in your head. I'm like, am I cut out to run my own business?
Right.
And then you go through like this doomsday, like, well, what if I don't make it? And we've all been there 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's just part of being a business owner.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think it's scary because it's like the first actionable thing you do when you decide you want to maybe make a business out of it.
100%.
So,
I am also doing this because I want to share the knowledge that I think I have now after being a business owner for 4 years. I think that my team's done it pretty well, and I've grown my team to 35 plus creatives, and we have our hand dipped in weddings, real estate, working across multiple different industries and stuff, right? So I do want to share that for sure. And wow, it's getting very much darker in here. I can just see the light dropping on your face. I'm hoping that things are still. This is why I like kind of want to
maybe it just means I need another cup of coffee. The life is leaving me.
No, I don't
what even light was it?
Probably there, I think. I think it's
just some ambient sunlight.
Ambient sunlight just coming through, or a cloud coming by. But that's what happens when you are shooting.
I wish I could brighten your day, Sam, but apparently not.
You always brighten my day, Ryan. That's for sure, man. That's for sure. But cool, man. I'm glad that you use CRM software for that, and it's a massive, massive up in the biz. I think if you don't leverage CRM software, whether it be HoneyBook, Dubsado, 17 Hats, right? All those kind of softwares that you can use to funnel your leads somehow, somewhere, and then have them block your schedule out so you don't double book is super, super important.
Yeah.
So we'll end up probably putting our like HoneyBook link down there. But like I said, not an ad. This is we just love their software, and I think they come up with like a free trial as well, like that if you book through one of our links. So
not an ad.
Not an ad, but HoneyBook, if you're watching.
If you're watching.
we love your software. We love your software. Cool, man. Let's pivot into commercial production, obviously, because I know you shot this Borneo film, and you work not just as a gaffer, but you run your own production company where you kind of work with businesses and brands and you tell their stories. So tell me a bit about that part of your business.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think maybe this can be I can shed some advice here to people first starting out as well. The thing is like I have so many different interests, and in some sense, I tend to shoot myself in the foot sometimes for not having a focus or, taking too long to establish a particular focus in my business. And so, I do weddings, and I also work commercials, and in all the departments as well, in the camera department and lighting, and then also DP, so my own work with businesses, and then documentary as well. So I love doing it all, right? But that also means I got arms everywhere, and literally. It's hard to figure out. It's hard to grow something when you're trying to reach to so many different branches.
Yeah.
So kind of where I've settled upon right now with the maturity of doing this for a couple of years now is I'm aiming my business. So I'm in the world of like being an owner operator. So I have my own camera package and small to medium sized lighting package. And I found for me personally, I much prefer working with the like production crew side versus client side. It's all skills we all need to learn anyways. But I found for me personally where I'm best, I'm most savvy is just in like the gear and the job component of just making it get done on the day. And that's what I love to do is like getting it done on the day in production. there's a certain energy to being on set, and there's pressure because there's budget, there's pressure because there's people yelling at you, there's pressure because there's way too much work to get done in such a short period of time. I thrive in those kinds of worlds where you have no choice but to get something done. I'm a person to overthink things, so I'd like to be in situations where you have no choice but to just do it. So yeah, that's where I love to work.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love it, dude. I love it. Yeah, and everyone, I mean, knowing your strengths is super important as well, right? Like.
Yeah, and that takes practice too, is figuring out where your strengths are, because there's so many different types of skills in this industry. So you just got through trial and error, figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, like, where your strengths are, right? Like you said it yourself. Like, you are a gaffer by trade, I think, right? Like, you have a lot of experience in the kind of gaffing. Like, you know how to light a room really well, but you don't necessarily want to go down that route, because I think your strengths also lie elsewhere. You want to be like a business owner. You want to, produce your own films. You want to do a whole array of things, right? Including running your own wedding business. So. 100%, man. 100%. So we were talking about, your strengths. So tell me about, I brought you on to my short film Knockout. Tell me a bit about how that process went, lighting that scene. I brought you on as a gaffer. You were a massive help. You made it look so much better than I thought it was going to look.
Yeah. I just looked back and watched it again recently.
Yeah.
I loved how it turned out.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was a great one. It was perfect timing with everything, because I just a few days prior, I decided to finally invest in a proper, maybe at a half-ton grip package right now. So I bought all this stuff, and I was just about to be brought on to my first 3-day job as a gaffer. So I needed to make sure I could fit everything in the car first and do a little, practice round with you first before that job. And I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
That's kind of... It's funny because if you don't know, I mean, it takes so much gear to make something look
much gear, man.
Just natural, right?
Yeah. And we'll probably I'll overlay some stuff about the
do you want to go
scenes.
into the technicals of anything?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, just talk a bit about what gear you brought out there. I mean, I couldn't believe how much equipment you brought for that one shoot alone. It was a whole truck worth of C-stands and diffusing, light, and you brought 200-300 Ds. Was it Amaron or was it?
Yeah, Aperture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is it's like being a Boy Scout. You got to be prepared. Go into a situation. I mean, it starts with pre-production. You want to get an idea of where you're going to be at before a job. Sometimes you have more access to that than others, but you always want to be prepared for anything that's thrown your way, and you want to be prepared in a sense to where you're not chewing up time. You never want to be in a position where someone's waiting on you. So that's essentially why it takes so much gear to get something done. Is you're going to be over prepared for something. And it's you got to shape light, so you got to work in a lot of three-dimensional situations, because if you're subject, you have to light, and you have to think about background and the light ratios between the two. That's always where that magic contrast
100%.
comes from. And good lighting, generally speaking, comes from a large light source. So I was super excited to use a 6x6 frame, which I just got for that shoot. We did an overhead. We had a 300x, I think, daylight balanced, and then we had that shining through a 6x silk onto our talent at a boxing ring. We had all the lights turned off, so you get that really dramatic, moody light. And there's a little bit of a psychology to that too. A lot of locker rooms and those spaces is overhead light as well, so you want to try to match the same world for the motivation of your lighting. After we had the subject, lit and looking good, we were kind of struggling with the last bit of my gear to light up the ambient background. And I think the strength in the Sonys really came in through there, because you could just jack up that ISO.
I mean, we were probably, we think we were shooting on the dual native at 12-800, right? So.
Yeah, so because the light sensitivity is so great there, it doesn't take a lot of firepower to at least get some pop in the background, because you don't want it to be complete blackness.
Yeah.
And I think we found a good balance there, but try and pop out a couple of details in the background.
100%.
So, yeah.
No, it was incredible, honestly, man. I super appreciate you coming out and doing that. So
yeah.
Yeah, that was one for the books for sure. But I know you just went out to Borneo and you shot your own film out there, which I hope you're going to submit to the SBM Film Fest later this year.
I want to, for sure.
It would be sweet to have you out there for it on your own film, because I saw your behind the scenes out there and it looked insane. So tell me a bit about, your trip out there, your experience in Borneo. Like, why were you there? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I guess I can start with the log line. Essentially, it's a fly fishing documentary on a river system that's in Borneo called the Naribugan River. And I was with a fly fishing expedition, and we're potentially the last people to ever fish this river. And that's because there's a proposed mining project there to extract coal from the riverbed. Essentially, entire swaths of this river are made up of coal deposits. And it's so wild to see in person, because once you know what you're looking for, you see it everywhere. And you can literally just like knock off a piece of coal with your hand, and you can dry it off in your shirt, and then moments later put a lighter to it and it goes up in smoke. It is
so wild.
That easy to access. And so I wanted to follow this fly fishing expedition because these projects like this are omnipresent in Borneo, and it's one of the last, it's one of the last old growth rainforests in the world, and it's worth protecting,
Definitely.
And I wanted to see it for myself too. I've never been to any kind of environment like that before. And honestly, like, what really sparked me to go there, besides from the whole fly fishing component of it, is like, as a kid, and you like see a globe and you spin it around, and like, what is like the most exotic place you can think of on a globe? Land your finger right there on this random island in the South Pacific. It's Borneo. It's like, it feels so foreign. I just had to see it for myself. And I'm so glad I did, because it's so wild. And this documentary allowed me to explore kind of like what makes these environments so special and why they're so particularly difficult to protect. And kind of the conclusion I came back with is just like how lucky we are in the United States, in the sense that the natural treasures of our area, they tend to be mountainous areas, and there you can make clear boundaries to places like that. The Yosemite Valley, obviously we want to keep that around, right?
Yeah.
The Sierra Nevada mountain range, it's an obvious area that is worth protecting. But when you go to places like a rainforest, the beauty of the rainforest is the life that's in it. It's not a clear boundary to like what's worth protecting and what's not. And unfortunately, of course, once you start to destroy the actual, environment of the rainforest, you can't come back from that, And when you don't have a clear, like, geographic landmark, it's just one river basin after the next. And that's what's so exciting about fly fishing, because like, for those people, that is a way to experience the world. I kind of learned to experience the outdoors like through backpacking and tagging summits. And this is just a whole new way to just explore an area that is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. So it was really exciting to see the amount of passion these people have for just wanting to save these areas and be, to protect areas that, just you can't find anywhere else on Earth.
No, it seemed amazing, man. Like that entire.
And there's plenty more to dive into as well.
Oh,
maybe that's a good log line or what?
No, there's so much to get into for sure from that. I completely agree with everything you said, man. It's like incredible out there for sure, and I think you had the opportunity of a lifetime to go out there and see how life is, and capture an incredible story that you guys captured. So.
Yeah. And what was particularly unique about this trip is that we got to team up with the Dayak tribes in the central region of Borneo. We're in central Kalimantan. And for them, this is their backyard, and it's so amazing to see. So we got to go up river systems that you otherwise would never be able to go to without having a particular relationship with the tribes there, because that is their land and everything.
Yeah.
And, just being able to see the skill set they have out there. I'm like an Eagle Scout. I like to think I know my way around in the outdoors, but without their help, I just know for a fact I wouldn't last a day out there.
Yeah.
Everything's trying to eat you or get you.
It is just. Would be so. I mean, it sounds like such an adventure too, right, man?
It is.
It's so different from out here. But.
Yeah. And so it was a gift to be there.
Well, speaking of adventure as well, I mean, you sound like you faced some serious obstacles as well. I know you had a little bit of an incident with the drone. I don't know if you wanted to talk a bit about that at all.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the Bornean jungle is a notorious graveyard, as I was told, for drones, because the jungle canopy blocks satellite communication. Mm-hmm. And so you'll be flying your drone around, and if you're not careful, next thing you know, you lost communication, she goes down. And I was in a precarious situation because I let my battery drain too much. And DJI, when you run battery for too long, it auto lands.
Yep.
And so I was hightailing back home as the battery was dying, and I didn't make it. So I do an emergency landing. Thankfully, because it was on auto land, it was like the most gentle crash I've had.
Yeah, probably just
so
like
I
right
found,
on
I
the
found
canopy.
A tree, yeah, and it just goes plop on the canopy. And this is maybe 100 yards out, so I didn't get quite a clear view of where it was. I just knew the general area of where it went down. And this particular afternoon, I had nearly nothing else to do, so I'm like, I'm gonna find this sucker. I know it's fine if I can find it, because it didn't tumble. So I spent hours with binoculars trying to find the drone through just like the thickest brush imaginable.
Needle in a haystack. 100%.
Yeah, and I have like the orange blades on the drone. Or propellers, so it is easier to see, but ironically, like all the fruiting trees also had orange leaves too, so didn't help there at all. There's this kid we had in camp, we called him Blondie. He's maybe like 16 years old, and he eventually spots it. I swear to God, this guy is Tarzan. This drone is like 3 stories high, like almost like 100 feet up there, and he climbs all the way up to the canopy and grabs the drone. And mind you, still at this point, I can't see the drone. He's a natural born hunter. I am not, apparently so. But then it gets better than that, because after all this work on the way down, he drops it.
That's
Kaplunk.
After
all that work, the
tragic.
drone goes all the way down to the river. We're all sorted around him at this point, so luckily we were able to scoop it out real quickly. Still nervous, but then that aha moment that we're traveling and we have like 50-pound rice sacks with us, because we got to eat all day. And so I did the old, cell phone and rice trick, but with the drone. So I put it in one of our huge bags of rice and let it soak up for like a day. And then I reconnected it, and I did not get any error messages. So
wild.
I know. I think it's okay. I didn't get a chance to fly it afterwards because I didn't want to risk it again. And then I just made it home a few days ago. And so we're going to see if she flies again.
But
crossed.
I want to see that footage of Tarzan going up.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'll show you on my phone here. Yeah.
I can't say I've had anything like that before where
I might be the luckiest man alive.
You probably are, honestly.
Yeah.
You probably are. I mean, the fact that he dropped it and it still survived as well. Mm-hmm. I'm just glad that he made it back down all right.
I know, right? Yeah, him too.
Like, better the drone than him.
I know, and that's right. I was like yelling at him. There's like a language barrier too. So I'm like, don't put yourself in harm's way.
It's a drone.
For a drone.
You can get another drone.
But he was so excited. Like you know how teenagers are. They want to like prove himself and everything.
Yeah,
I'm like,
just go and play Tarzan for a second.
There's no stopping you at that point.
That's wild, man.
Yeah,
so
but what
cool.
saved me though was like because the drone battery died when it fell into the water. I didn't harm any electronics right off the bat. So just lucky in every sense of the word.
The footage was safe as well, which is great.
Yeah.
That's always a scary thing is like if you lose footage. So cool, man.
Right.
I'm like freaking stoked that you went out there. I think it's such a cool experience for sure. And
it is.
Sound like you went to Bali as well with your wife after, which. I'm sure she loved that. So I'm sure
Oh
you
yeah,
loved it too.
yeah. Shout out to Laura Brown. You get it for
Yeah.
that one. For letting me go on this trip. Yeah, to sell that venture for being gone for so long.
Yeah.
We met up in Bali afterwards and did a nice little vacation there after coming from the jungle. So
I've heard of worse trips.
Yeah,
I've heard of
exactly,
worse
right?
trips, dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. That's
Yeah.
pretty nice. Cool, man.
So best of both worlds.
Well, we'll pivot a little bit out of your Borneo trip and talk a little bit about the community that we're kind of building, I think, here, or at least I'm trying to build here in the Bay Area. So tell me a little bit about the creative community in general that you've seen in the Bay Area, kind of what I think we're trying to do as like a unit, trying to bring people together. I know I host a bunch of happy hours and stuff. What has it been like being a creative here in the Bay Area?
Yeah, so it's really challenging to be, I'd say I'm at the point where I call myself maybe mid-career. And it's really hard to pivot to a new community when you're mid-career because I spent so many years trying to establish myself in Reno. I built a community there. And then to have to let it all go and go to a new place is very daunting. And it's also really daunting too when like you already have clients of your own, and that's kind of, you need to put your energy into that. You know, you have less time to just be like, oh, hey, can I help you on this project? Or, let's grab coffee, blah, blah, blah.
You lose your entire network.
Yeah, you just have to, it's just like the work that has to be done, and as a freelancer in general, like you always have to be talking to people. It's just part of the game,
Yeah, 100%.
And it's for the better too, because we all end up just working with friends, that's just how it is. And there's very few industries where you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
It's the best and worst part about the industry, right? But yeah, it's just, it takes time to really build up a network again. And the Bay Area has been kind to me so far. I've been able to meet a lot of people, and I'm really fortunate to have met you because, again, you're putting in the effort beyond what I'm trying to do, just trying to meet individuals on an individual level. You're trying to build a community together. So people like me can actually meet people from a greater network, and that is invaluable for sure because inevitably we need each other's help. And you never know when a particular person and their particular skill sets could be advantageous for you and what you're trying to do, and vice versa as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. We're all in this together, right?
Yeah.
And I think
there's a rising tide component to the freelance video world, and like you have to ride the wave with people who are at the same skill set as you. You have to learn from people who are better than you, and you also have to bring up people below you.
100%, man. Yeah.
And any person that puts in the effort to help people below them, you should remember that because you don't have to, but it's really worth doing.
No, but it's truly all about who you know, right? In this industry, we're all business owners, right? We're all we're all in the same types of work. But what sets our business apart from other businesses is literally just like the people who we know, right? And that's why it's so hard to start a new community or start fresh in a new area because you just don't have those connections anymore. But once you start building those connections out and you start building those you start farming those referrals, it just becomes way easier. And it starts by putting together a group events and getting coffees and bring a shooter on that you never had talked to before as a second shooter or as an assistant camera or something like that, right? And the first time we met was it coffee? Was it at a wedding? Did we shoot a wedding together?
What was it? It was through Stravo, one of your
Through Stav,
friends.
yeah,
Through
through
Stavro,
Stav.
I forget where it was exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first job we did together was I second shot for you at a wedding.
Yeah. No, it comes from that, right?
Yeah,
it's just like it's all about just taking chances on people and then just building off those connections, right? Because look at where we are 3 years later.
Yeah. And that's the most fun part is you never know how things are going to grow.
Totally.
I went from shooting city council meetings to now shooting a documentary in Borneo. Like,
Yeah.
how do you imagine you can connect a dot like that? And networking with people works in very much the same way.
Yeah, no, you should be proud of yourself, man. That's like a big accomplishment as well. Like we've all come very far, and it's really cool to see how far like I've come personally, and then how far like all my friends have come. And I love that like rising tide, metaphor is like when the tide rises, not only do you rise, but everybody around you rises as well because, you bring people up around you. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Your win's my win.
Exactly.
So, and vice
exactly.
versa. So,
Absolutely.
dope, dog. I think we'll end it there, man. But
yeah?
appreciate you coming out
Of
today
course,
and
man. Yeah.
appreciate you coming
Pleasure's
in
all
and sharing
mine.
all your knowledge and your value that you have to give to, the creative community as well as just being a homie. So I appreciate you coming out, man. And
Totally.
yeah, we'll have to do this again soon.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Cool, brother. All right,
Alrighty.
man. Put it there.
Boom.